with you, and I'm happy that the song resonates because it really does resonate with me. Every time I get discouraged and I look back on all these things that, God has pulled me through, that's really where my strength lies, is just remembering, God's done this for me. He's done this for me. So this new problem I'm facing, he's going to get me through this one too. So, yeah, I did have a little note about, before we get started, just about current recent events in our country. And did I freeze? Am I frozen? Okay, all right. I just want to make sure. So I just want us to remember that the battle that we fight is not a physical one, but a spiritual one. And people are not the enemy. So we have, a very real, formidable enemy of our souls that seeks to kill, steal, and destroy. And he wants us divided and fighting with each other. And so we have to put on the full armor of God, and so we can stand firm during all of this. And, just when we're together, where two or more are gathered, I'm among them. We have a lot of division. We can fix it. We can come together and remember who we are in Christ, and help each other. Hey, I'm back. Can you guys hear me? Okay, sorry. I'm just fixing this. I don't. The enemy didn't like that, I guess. I don't know. But instead of letting the political rhetoric divide us and take us off of our focus from God, let's remember, we can listen to each other and validate each other's concerns about politics. Listen to the other side, like Jack said, without knocking each other down or causing further division and strife. So that's what I wanted to say about that. I do have a few foundational scriptures for my message before we get started. If you guys wanted to jot them down, I don't know, some people jot them down. So the first one comes from Isaiah 41:10. The second one is Psalms 42:11. And the third one is Micah 7 verses 7 through 8. So chapter 7 verses 7 through 8. And I'll go ahead and get started. Thanks again so much for letting me share. And I hope that some part of this resonates with you or you can relate to it. So it's not hard to look around right now, scroll social media, or watch the news without becoming discouraged. So I've been feeling a lot of that. Sometimes the discouragement is a lot more personal. It comes with like a personal crisis. Maybe it comes after a battle with illness or healing that just suddenly takes a turn for the worse, and we feel like we're going backwards. Maybe it's coming from feeling like this pandemic will never end, or like Tammy and Paul were saying that, Tammy, you mentioned your mom, it's like a prison in the assisted living because, she has to quarantine if she does leave. And that's the same thing with my grandma right now. So I really understand that it's very hard for them and hard for us. Maybe it's the efforts we're putting into working from home or learning from home or just, going to work in a physically, like socially distanced environment. And our efforts to make that all work just seems inadequate. And it seems like it's not, just not good enough. Last week, I was reading the story of Joseph from the book of Genesis to my kids. So Joseph had many dreams, and he was so excited about his dreams that he went and told his big brothers, hey, in my dream, I saw you guys bowing down to me. And they did not like that at all. So they ended up selling him into slavery, and he was taken to a foreign country where they spoke a foreign language. And we learned that Potiphar ended up purchasing Joseph as a slave. Um, Joseph worked his way up the ranks in Potiphar's house and eventually became kind of like in charge of all the like the household slaves and whatever, workers. And it was at that time that Potiphar's wife took notice of Joseph. So she made and he turned her down, and she's so humiliated, she ended up accusing Joseph of assaulting her. And he wasn't given a trial. He wasn't able to defend himself or his reputation, and he was just tossed in prison. And thinking about that, so Genesis 39:21 says, so it just says something really interesting about that. So even though Joseph was tossed into prison, it says, but the Lord was with Joseph and extended loving kindness to him and gave him favor in the sight of the warden. So when we think of a prison, isn't that kind of like the last place we expect God to be with someone, or that we would expect kindness or favor? So yet God allowed that, um, for the he gave Joseph a purpose and meaning in the middle of him going through this. His struggle was that he was thrown in prison without being given a fair trial or having anybody hear him out. Um, so in these two chapters of Genesis, though, we also observe that even as a slave and as a prisoner being falsely accused, the phrase "the Lord was with Joseph" appears about 4 times. So that's something we have to continually remind ourselves of as we face down discouragement, because we may not always feel the Lord's presence. So if we're putting our hope in our circumstances or our situation, it's really easy to become discouraged. We can't determine God's presence by our feelings or circumstances. So Isaiah 41:10, that's the first verse, says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Be assured, I will help you. I will certainly take hold of you with my righteous right hand." So, like Joseph, sometimes we have that dream that God gave us, and yet we face a lot of obstacles in our way, um, to seeing that dream and vision come to fruition. So, we aren't always saved from our circumstances. The Lord is with us, but we will still face and even go through the storms of life or go through the refining fire. So God is more concerned with what's happening in us than what's happening to us. An example of this, in 2015, my family and I were in a car crash. I attempted, even after a long night in the ER, I seriously think we didn't get home till like 2 a.m., to go back to normal. So I wanted things to just go back to normal. Um, got checked out of the ER and seemed like, all right, we can go home and life will start again tomorrow. um, so I went to work right away. And as I was sitting there, all of a sudden, my vision just started to go really like wonky. And it was just like the room started spinning. So after the room stopped spinning, I went and talked to my boss and I was like, yeah, I think I need to go home. Maybe I'm just really tired because I didn't get out of the ER till late last night, whatever. So I went home, but I figured I should talk to my doctor about it. So immediately they told me I need to come in like right away immediately. So I had to go in, to urgent care, and there they said, hey, you actually have a concussion. So I figured, okay, no problem. 7 to 10 days, I'll be good to go and life can resume back to normal. Um, but it didn't take 7 to 10 days for me to get better. It took months and months of doctor's appointments, physical therapy, cognitive therapy, and symptoms that seemed as if they would never go away. Like I think it lasted almost a year. I had all these symptoms and just things that I thought, Lord, where are you? Will this ever get better? I felt so stupid at times because I was getting words mixed up and getting objects mixed up. So I was calling doors, chairs, doors, and all sorts of different things. And it was just really hard for me to be a mom. I remember trying to sort through laundry and pair socks, and I just could not do it. I was like, well, okay, this sock is this color, and this sock is this color. How do these go together? I don't understand. So it was definitely a huge challenge for me. And it actually affected my pride a lot. So I really took a hit there because all of a sudden, everything I thought I knew how to do, it seemed as if I didn't, or, I couldn't remember simple instructions or tasks. Anytime I went somewhere, like if I was going to drive to an appointment, even if I knew where the building was, I always had to put it in my phone's GPS and map my way there, because as soon as I would get in the car and take the first turn, I would forget where I was going. So if I was going to go somewhere, I had to make sure I was always trying to punch that into my map so I could get there. So it seemed like I was hitting setback after setback with every new appointment with my neurologist. But during that time, God really showed up for me and my family in ways that I never thought possible. We were provided for. So our minivan was actually totaled in that crash. Like the frame was bent, and the insurance company was like, yeah, we're just, we're totaling it out because this is bad. So it took a couple of months, but we were able to purchase a new minivan. And after all was said and done, we paid a penny for it. And it was actually better than newer than our minivan that we had that got totaled. So insurance took care of most of the cost of the van plus tax and title. And yeah, we just paid a penny. We had food on the table. We had gas to get to all of my appointments. Most importantly, though, we had friends and family who really showed up for us and helped us get through our struggles. So I feel like we had people who were the hands and the feet, and making sure that we were not only being encouraged, but they really checked in on our spiritual health. So Jack, that was you, and thank you so much for that, being there for us during that time and checking in on us and really spiritually encouraging us. So anytime I get discouraged, like now, lately with recent events, with my husband's diagnosis, I just remember, even though I had a lot of tears, developed a couple new fears. I was diagnosed with agoraphobia while I was going through the concussion, because it got to the point where I felt so scared and I felt so unsafe to leave the house for fear of getting into another car accident, that it was just really hard for me to feel safe leaving the house. But even through all of that, I just remember that God was so faithful, and he showed up through all of that. I mean, so many amazing things happened. I mean, we were just provided for more than I could have ever imagined. So God showed me that he could be trusted. All right. So moving on, I wanted to make a third point about this. We're supposed to be waiting patiently and expectantly on the Lord, even through our discouragement. So Micah 7:7-8 says, but as for me, I will look expectantly for the Lord, and with confidence in him, I will keep watch. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. Do not rejoice over me, O my enemy. Though I fall, I will rise. Though I sit in the darkness of distress, the Lord is a light for me. So we have a very real and formidable enemy of our souls. And I feel like discouragement is the devil's favorite tool. Like he can use it to consume us. He can consume our hearts, our minds, and just cause us to feel doubt. Like I said, in my struggle, when I had a concussion, I was wondering, God, are you there? Are you with me? Because I feel alone. I feel scared. I feel isolated. So we can start to doubt the promise of God. We can start to doubt the calling he has on our lives. We can, the directions, the goals, anything that he's given to us, we can start to doubt all of that. Um, we can even feel broken or defective. Uh, Let me illustrate it this way. So last week, one of my kids handed me a broken crayon. They were coloring a little bit too hard. And the crayon snapped in half, and they didn't want to color with it anymore, right? Because it's broken. And I said, well, honey, the crayon might be broken, but you can still use it to color. And so that kind of had me thinking, broken crayons still color. We can still put them down to paper and use them to color. And I think even though we're broken, God can still use us. He can still take our struggles and use them for his purpose. So we can have all this brokenness inside of us. We can have a broken society. We can have a broken culture. We can come from a broken family. We can have a broken heart. And God will take that and use it. It says everything we need right there. We don't need to strive after perfection. We don't need to keep trying to earn God's grace or trying to earn our place in heaven with him. That doesn't come from any performance-based work that we do, right? There's too many like maybes. I think we can make excuses sometimes too and say, well, I'm too broken, or, maybe once I get my life back together, and get past the struggle, I can fully commit to God's calling on my life. But that's not it. We try to make ourselves enough, but that's the whole point. We aren't enough. We're not enough, but God is more than enough. He takes all our broken fragments and makes us whole. As author James Merritt puts it best, if God has your ear, he can speak into it. If he has your heart, he can minister to it. So to kind of pull everything together and try to sum it all up and not go too much over the time. There's 3 points. So the first point that I wanted to make is that God is always with us. Recall that in Joseph's life, the Lord was with him when he was sold into slavery, when he was a slave, when he was falsely accused, and when he was in prison, etc. So think back on any time that the Lord may have showed up for you in your life during times of struggle or crisis. And then you can use that to kind of lean on when times are really tough. Hey, God has proven himself. He's showed up for me, and I know he can do it again. Sometimes we aren't saved. This is point 2, sorry. Sometimes we aren't saved from our trials or struggles because God is using it to refine us. Proverbs 17:3 says, the refining pot is for silver and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tests hearts. So he wants our hearts. He wants to know that we trust him. And point 3 was wait patiently and expect the Lord. Psalms 42:11 says, why are you in despair, O my soul? Why have you become restless and Okay, can you guys hear me again? Sorry, for whatever reason, it just keeps disconnecting me. So I hope that this message made it through. I can send Jack and Cheryl, I can send you both the link to kind of my outline here, what I went on. So if it did freeze or anything and somebody wanted to see exactly what it was I had said or missed anything, I can, have that for reference. But yeah, so I think we face a lot of discouragement, especially with everything going on, and it's really not, hard to be discouraged. But I hope that you guys can find some encouragement in just looking back in your own lives and looking back at a time where God really did show up and come through for you. when everything looked impossible and it just looked like, you know, situations weren't going to improve, circumstances weren't going to improve, or whatever it may be. But he really pulled through for you.
Amen. Thanks so much.